because there's no in Wirecast. This is not such a freaking utter nightmare. All right, let's see what
Let's try it
happens
again.
now. Let's see what happens when 100,000 screaming teenagers are all chanting my name.
So, Brian, are you hearing that echo back from the computer?
That's because sometimes these things, if you're monitoring
Right.
you,
Wait, so,
You're really low though, Alex, but
my mom's pubic system peaking at 6:30 p.m.
so let's see if we can get this in the right place. I didn't want to know. Eric called me up and said, Alex, I'm going to pizza after the show. And I said, stop.
I wish that were true because that's how so good.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Is after he told me that, he said that's a lie. And after he told me that's a lie, I needed to do what I wanted.
it's still really now. It's just really I can hear you guys, but it's really low. Sounds like like, and it's like it looks like you're peaking on like both mics.
What's it look like in the monitor and on the AES?
It looks fine. Oh, I can hear you pretty good.
Yeah, I sound fine. Like you can hear whenever I like talking into these. Yeah.
Oh, you know, Alex, it's that stupid.
It's not picking the right mic.
Yeah.
It's that sound issue. Remember?
There you go.
Yeah, you gotta change the settings. That's it.
Hello, Taco Bell. Come in, please. Hello.
I'm out here busting my ass to put on the best show I can imagine. Not that I can muster, but this is. I've spent years doing. I've spent years doing masculine and LSD. I've spent years doing masculine and LSD at the same time to try to imagine something absolutely fantastic. And this is it.
Dude, I mean, you heard it.
Yeah.
You heard it. And the other thing is that we're hearing like what it's getting through this.
This is why I just wanted to try and do all freaking analog somehow, but it's just not possible.
So is the idea that we're going to plug in the USB thing right in through here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Glad it's here.
I know. To do that, we just.
Oh, so now we might be back to the issue that I somehow figured out, which is this might be extremely quiet or some shit. But I don't know.
And can we get more than one channel?
So I guess the question, so here's a question. Could we share a mic and then take calls or something? Like have the computer
go in on one of these things? Because I have a converter that could go from like, oh no, this also takes line in.
Right.
So yeah, we could have the computer going in through here. Wait.
No,
no,
we just
no,
need to
yeah.
go from the mixer to this.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it goes from the mixer to this. Right. Yeah, that's right. We talked about doing that at one point. So now this thing that's going to right. So this thing that goes.
And let's see what that sounds like. Oh, now though, whoa,
So we're monitoring. We're monitoring through
that's
the
super
stuff.
loud.
What about now?
Turn down the master as well, Brian. There's a master.
We got it. What about it? They're coming through the convention.
It's gotta take.
Yeah, it's update.
Holy crap. Okay.
Yo, testing 1, 2, 3. I think it can still come down.
Master, you
Sorry.
actually bring the master, or what's going on in the like? So let's see. The master's about like it's almost 0.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Turn down the other channel, dude.
Okay. Let's try this. Okay, so they're both like almost at.
So turn down the master on the mixer, Brian.
Hold on, let's try this. And try it.
I mean, yo, roots.
It may be okay, but test. 1, 2, 3.
Let's just talk.
Chocolate milk is so good.
Margarita Pizzeria Napolitana is a place that I go, and I mean, keep in mind I can't hear anything on the monitor.
Children of the Corn is like a really great movie to watch with your family.
If you just, Alex, if you're talking with Michael, we'll do it. Like
Yep.
You're peeking.
Yeah, so if I'm talking to the mic sort of like this, I think what you're going to get is something not great but really good. And it's good in a way that, like, let's say I go home and lay down on the couch and just start dreaming with my eyes open. That's good.
I can't hear anything out of my headphones.
Yeah, me either. Dude, one last thing. There's like a big knob on the scar.
Yeah, I got it all the way. I just turned it all the way up.
Yeah.
Can you hear it now?
No.
You guys, you sound much better. Like, it's not, you're not peeking as much at all.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
Let's try a different. Here, let's try a different jack.
Hello? Yeah, I can kind of hear something in that. So that should be serviceable. Hello, test 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. Well.
Yeah, I mean, welcome to Crazy Town for sure. I mean, we're at the center of Crazy Village, and we're through the Looking Glass.
Let's just pull the trigger and let it rip.
All right.
And
Do you share your personal, or you want me to do it? Or?
yeah, if you,
Have we told Brian how to answer Skype and stuff like that?
yeah, I mean it's just exactly how you.
Yeah, so they'll call up on Skype. Well, and will their audio look like this?
I think so. Yeah, their audio will come through. And then you can switch here. So we'll go live.
Brian, just so you know, when people call on Skype, if anybody calls, we have it so it's muted. Like the phone is muted, so it just appears like when people call on Skype.
So the phone is big, so you guys can't hear.
No, we can't. It's. I mean, what I mean is there's no ringtone,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay.
so it doesn't like.
We're live.
We're live.
Yep.
Well, welcome to Dark of the Night. We're in the midst of technical difficulties, which personally I find very exciting when these things happen. We've been having, for anyone who's been tuning in for the past few weeks, if you've tried to find the feed and we're not on at the right time. This is Eric, by the way. He's my co-host
I'm Eric
here.
Yearwood, and this is. I'm here. I'm back.
I mean, I think it's worth just going over some of the supernatural shit that's been going wrong with our tech.
Yeah, I think let's start at the beginning of we're going to walk everybody through what we've been experiencing, because it's definitely not natural.
No. So let's, I mean...
Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, so first of all, the topic tonight is how to become a Dracula, and that is a good topic also, but we want to clear the air. And so first thing that happened tonight is I pressed the button to the elevator. There were things. Let's have that be the beginning of the book, right?
Yeah.
It's like it was a cool evening. And it's not cool. It's hot. And Alex pressed the button of the elevator. I came up the stairs. And first of all, I knew something. I knew there was probably a ghost here because it was really hot in the studio.
Yeah. And then I came in, since again we don't have a studio currently. I don't have a place to live. I've been carrying all my gear in garbage bags, which is really cool because it makes me feel like a guerrilla filmmaker. But it's not cool in the sense that all of the gear just then becomes it is garbage.
But here's okay, put that in brackets. Above that, everything he just said is a great thing for both of us. Because, look, yes, yes, there was a ghost haunting the studio that made it really hot. And yes, all of our equipment has become garbage. But at the same time, we have become a ghost haunting a studio that made it really hot. And yes, all of our equipment has become garbage.
Yeah, just mute it on the.
But things are going well. And look, I'm going to be as honest as I've ever been on this show, and I just want you guys to know out there that we have been dealing with technical difficulties,
Perpetual technical difficulties, seemingly unending technical difficulties
for about the past 4 weeks. And the reason that happened is that Eric found out that his landlord was a Dracula.
Yeah.
And it sort of set off a domino effect in which I'd say
I said I got to get out of here.
Yeah. And we went through, and so we've lost our original recording space. I want to ask our tech Brian a question quick. Am I peeking on that, Brian?
And by the way, we have a tech now. That's the one bright spot in our universe, is that we have a tech named Brian. He's on the ones and twos.
What's the thing like on that, Brian? I sound, in my headphones, I sound like you know the droid that landed at the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
That thing, and it was just like. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, that's how you sounded in my headphones too. I don't sound much better, but
This is better. Still peaking.
the point is, Nightcrawlers, is if you stick with us through this. I mean, for us, this is old hat. We've been dealing with this for 10 years.
Yeah, I would say we go through these kinds of technical difficulties every 2 months. We've been going through it every 2 months for the past 9 years.
And it becomes part of you. You know, I saw a Netflix documentary called Thor, and it was about this guy who was sort of a bodybuilder / heavy metal musician, and he was trying to make it in the 80s, and he kind of came close, but then he didn't, and he couldn't let it go. And so then in the 90s he tried to have a comeback, and then in the 2000s he tried to have a comeback, and then in 20-teens he tried to have a comeback, and he couldn't let it go. And you watched him age and become an old man as he was just slaving to just be a nobody. And you know, sometimes I worry if that's our story, but I'm not ready.
It's definitely not.
It's not.
Yeah,
for sure.
And when I say that, when I respond that to, because Eric and I have thoughts in sync because we watched that movie together, and I didn't need to look over him because I knew we were just having the same series of thoughts.
And you knew I was crying.
Yeah, we were both crying, and it kind of. And when you got up to go to the bathroom, I started crying twice as much.
And I was crying in the bathroom. And something like that, you know, these kind of challenges, whether it's a poltergeist or whether it's a gremlin or whether we have no studio and we're just hard.
And the XLR cable is gone.
Yeah. Whatever the case, it could be all three of those things. But it brings us closer together because at the end of the day, we don't need all this gear. We don't need these mics. As long as we have the clothes on our back and some sort of a town square to get into where we can yell at people and say, don't stop believing.
Yeah. Brian, I'm going to go over to this camera for the first time tonight. How's that looking? We have, for the first time in 4 weeks, a second camera. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's a big deal.
Now, I want to start to ease into our topic for tonight for anyone who's managed to get through the intense amount of ghosts and demons who have been invading our technical setup that's led to such a delay in our setup, you will now be rewarded by us telling you how to become a Dracula. And the reason I think transitioning to this on a second camera, Eric, is a good idea is because if Dracula was doing a live stream show, he would have a hard time being picked up on cameras, right? Because how do cameras work? And I'm making this up. Through mirrors.
Well, first of all, Draculas have it easy when it comes to live streaming because they're so old and they've accumulated so much gear and tech. I mean, they're basically Adorama or B&H.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely B&H. I'm going to go back to camera 1.
By the way, we got a call?
Incoming call.
Okay, we've got a caller.
Let's take a call.
Hello? You're on the line with Dark of the Night. Who's
I
calling?
am a Dracula.
Oh, this is a Dracula.
I am a Dracula. I'm a big, tall, scary Dracula.
Well, hello, Dracula.
What's up?
I just wanted to say you have us all wrong. On your show, you have us all wrong.
How do we have you all wrong, Dracula? I just want to
Well,
say...
you said... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you, I insist.
No, please, you.
Okay, well, you said we have all this equipment, you know, lots of things and stuff. We don't, you know, we're light travelers.
Well, I think that's interesting. So Eric, what this Dracula is saying is that they do not have a lot of gear. They're light travelers. Well, you know...
Potato.
Well, what I'm going to say...
No, that expression is usually reserved for when you're comparing two things. These are diametrically opposed concepts. And the other thing is, cameras can pick us up just fine. It is mirrors that we cannot pass.
Well, I think what Eric was saying before in terms of potato, and I understand on the surface it sounds like we're in complete contradiction to each other. What I want to say is,
We're not.
we're not.
Secondly, let me ask you this question. Okay.
What's
so
our camera, by the way, Brian? Which camera are we on?
By the way, Dracula,
Are you talking to me? Are you
No,
talking to me?
we're talking to our tech, Brian Dracula.
My name is Brian also.
Wow.
Wow.
That seems supernaturally.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to sort of soak in that. There's two... This Dracula is a Brian, which is... I'm going to do something... This is how I feel.
Zoink.
My hat just fell off.
Let me ask you a technical question, Dracula, since
Of
we
course.
have gear on the mind.
Yes.
Now, you say that you can be captured on camera,
of course.
but you can't be seen in mirrors.
Yes,
So
that's right.
let's imagine a scenario. Let's troubleshoot a little bit. Let's say you've got a camera going through a capture card, feeding into a computer, and then you've got that desktop mirrored on a second monitor. In that scenario, would you be able to see yourself?
Well, only if it was on a second monitor that is hardwired to the first monitor.
Okay.
If you're using some sort of wireless device, then no, we do not show up on the second device.
Well, I can understand how... I guess my reaction to that is, it sounds like you had to do a lot of trial and error there, because I imagine it... Do you work with an engineer or anything like that, or is your engineer another Dracula?
Oh, he's a Dracula. He understands the whole system. I'm more of the just behind the scenes money kind of guy.
Okay. So you're sort of providing all the gear and the tech and the space, and then the other Dracula.
I'm so sorry. Penelope Cruz just got here.
Okay.
I've got to go.
Well, that's.
I
I
guess.
that's pretty
Well,
awesome.
good for you. Hey.
Well, thanks for calling, Brian.
Thanks
the
for
Dracula.
calling us and making us feel inferior, Dracula.
Goodbye.
Yeah, but goodbye.
Well,
Well, first of all,
I feel like shit.
I feel, like garbage. I mean, first of all, these Draculas, I don't know how we're supposed to compete in the freaking world of TV and entertainment if Draculas are employing other Draculas. They've got gear out the wazoo, all the money in the world. They've got a castle to film in, and they got Penelope Cruz coming over. Yeah.
I mean, she is beautiful. I mean, she basically, I feel like she's the same sort of. She was in Vanilla Sky, and she was just beautiful in that movie. And I'm going to go to camera 2, Brian. And let me tell you, Vanilla Sky is a good movie. I watched it again 2 years ago. It's good. And I know it's a remake of Over Los Ojos.
I didn't know that.
It's better than that because it's got Radiohead in it.
I haven't seen it. I just have seen that one shot where Tom Cruise's face is just like it looks like the crotch of a Ken doll. It's just flesh.
Right. Back to camera 1. So, look, I think the reason I feel like shit, Eric, right now, is because, look, we got through technical difficulties, right? We're on the air
We're
tonight.
on the air. And that's one thing, night crawlers, that you know that we are committed to is showing up every week without fail.
Yeah, absolutely. That being said, we failed because the premise of tonight's show is that we're going to tell you all how to become a Dracula. Brian the Dracula just called us up and completely blew our credibility out of... I feel like saying blow it out of the water doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. We don't have any credibility anymore. So I'm trying to... Because basically, Brian just called us up. Brian the Dracula, working with other Draculas.
If you're out there and you're watching and you're just thinking to yourself, how can I become like Brian the Dracula? Hey, like, we're in the same boat. Like we started this when we thought up, okay, let's do this topic. We were like, yeah, how hard is it to be a Dracula? And then this Brian guy just calls up and just dazzles us. Like he's like John Goodman or something, like a real celebrity.
Yeah, like... I mean, what Brian just did to us is, imagine it's 1991. You're taking a tour of, I don't know...
Universal Studios.
Universal Studios. And they're saying, if you look to your right, you'll see a scene from Roseanne being filmed when they're just leaving a movie theater. Because I'm trying to think of, like, why they would be outside in a Roseanne episode. Because it's all inside. They don't go outside in those shows. And
this is at the peak. This is right after Ellen DeGeneres had the first lesbian kiss.
Right.
On Roseanne. They're hot.
Right. I mean, and John Goodman has already done Raising Arizona, and he's in a sitcom. Like, it's like super cool.
Yeah.
Like, he's so cool. And that's what Brian, we are on the tour, and so here's the other thing about the tour where you see John Goodman. You say, "Hey, John, look over here." John Goodman turns around and he gives you, in a way that would be funny if he was doing it in a movie, but it's not because he's doing it to you in front of a crowd of people. He goes, "Fuck off!" You know, it's like, and he sounds like Walter from The Big Lebowski. It's like really funny, but it's like humiliating.
And then your heart sinks and you think to yourself, I'll never be on Roseanne or a Roseanne-like show.
But that being said, so we're destroyed right now, but And we fail, and the night is over, but we're going to continue.
And like a phoenix, we rise again.
Let's go to camera 2.
You know, New York City, living in New York City as two guys with Midwestern values and with a commitment to the truth, no matter what the personal cost, is very daunting. Let me tell you.
It's not easy. Why did we want to become a Dracula? I guess it's. I mean, if we can't make it happen, we might as well talk about why we wanted to make it happen. I go to McDonald's, right, 3 times a day, and
not even to eat. I mean, the Wi-Fi is awesome there.
I would say 2 times a day. I will. Well, here's the thing. When I go in the morning, I get breakfast. That's the only time you can get breakfast at McDonald's. But
no, this is great. I get a McGriddle, and then I get a hot cup of coffee, but I'll only drink half, and then I'll have them pour it in a different cup, and I'll take it with me, and I'll go to Staples and just sit in their computer area for about 45 minutes before I go back to McDonald's.
Well, what I was going to say is, first I go in the morning.
Yeah.
If I could, when I go in the morning, I would buy my breakfast, lunch, and dinner all at the same time. Now, one thing that's interesting about McDonald's is you can get breakfast anytime now, but you cannot get lunch anytime.
Yeah.
Strange. You go in with your 5-year-old son, which I did once, and you leave the other in the car because someone has to protect the car. So we say, Tyler, what do you want? Order for Ben too. They're my twin boys. And Tyler says, I want a double cheeseburger. I say, it's the morning.
Yeah. Well, sorry. And, well, if you think about it, this just came to my mind. Lunch and dinner are basically the same thing at McDonald's. Breakfast is
Correct.
the only real different
Correct.
meal.
Correct.
So if you're a Dracula, what's the only meal you can't get during the day? Breakfast. But when night comes, you can get your breakfast. So is that a little bit coincidental? I think so. We've got a caller. No, we're to camera 1. We have yet to work out the hand signals with Brian.
Yeah, but this is to us a fun technical difficulty of us realizing we have this great new member of our crew, and it's going to be a whole learning experience.
It's a journey.
He's not a Dracula. He's Brian, a non-Dracula. But look.
We've had other texts before, by the way, and it hasn't ended well with any of them.
No.
There was Chris, and he ran off with she wasn't my girlfriend, but she is a girl that I did go on a date
Well,
with.
they were going out.
They were dating.
They were dating, and you asked, you said, hey, Chris, I'm going to go grab lunch with Janine.
Well, she said she liked ponytails, and I had a ponytail at the time, and I thought, this may be my only chance.
I just thought Chris was super, in retrospect, and look, I was just as happy that you fired him so angrily and so drunkenly. But look, I thought that at the time when you basically said, I'm going to go on a date with your girlfriend, and he was like, okay. It was kind of a cool thing to do. Although when he said that was when they got back, he said, I don't want you to do that again. Then it was like, get out of here.
Yeah. I said, look, you can't be in the family unless we share everything. And I guess that was the wrong thing to say.
Well, we are, and I'm going to go to camera 2 on this. Eric and I are like a non-murdering Manson family, in which we're everything that's great about the hippies in that we do share everything. We do believe in free love, but we're none of the bad things in that we think capitalism works really well, and we don't think that marijuana should be legal.
I think marijuana is one of the reasons why this country's in the toilet, to be honest.
Honestly, because everything else besides marijuana is going really well.
Thank you.
That being said, I want to start to ease back onto our topic, which is how to be a Dracula.
And my suspicion, by the way, we are in a situation, like I said, with the tech where we can't see the view count on how many people are watching this. I would say it's probably in the teens or the hundreds. And so if you're probably just being shy if you're not calling, but go ahead and call that number at the bottom of the screen, because we're eager to talk to you. We haven't talked to the night crawlers in weeks.
I mean, let's go to camera one, and I think one of the things
Which
that
one's camera one?
This is camera one. So we want to. For the last few weeks, we haven't been able to take calls because of the technical difficulties, all of the hundreds of ghosts and Sasquatches and Jawas that have been boogeymen that have been hiding under our cameras' beds and sneaking out in the night and throwing the cameras down the stairs, and also making our internet not work that well. So that being said, when I was bringing up McDonald's before and how I go there 3 times a day, and I'd love to dig into how I divvy up those trips, because they're not all, as Eric was saying, they're not all food-based trips to McDonald's.
Let's go deeper, because I feel like this is one of the issues that a lot of our night crawlers email and text us about. Because I will give my cell phone number out to certain night crawlers to text me about McDonald's. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So when I go in the morning, so this is where I was going with this before. When I go in the morning, if I could, I would cut down one trip of McDonald's, right? Because I would get all of my meals for the day, right? Because when I go in the morning, what am I going to get? I get breakfast. That's the only meal you can get in the morning at McDonald's.
Right.
If I could, I would also buy my lunch and dinner at the same time, because that would make me really excited thinking about all the McDonald's I'm going to eat for the rest of the day. But I have to eat my breakfast and then leave and come back at lunch, and then I order my lunch.
So because they make you leave.
Well, right, I do, and I would leave eventually, but I do like to sleep in my own bed. But look, so they make me leave. They say, "Sir," because I take a lot of phone calls with my sons Tyler and Ben when I'm at McDonald's, and I do usually, from a volume level, right now I'm at about a 4. I usually start at a 9 with them, because parenting tip.
And they're constantly wrestling on the floor.
Right. And this is at school. It might sound to you like I'm not doing a good job raising my sons. Well, guess what? I'm only one half of that equation. I have an ex-wife.
She is not, well, she doesn't like the show, that's for sure.
Let's go to camera 2.
Now, I will go to McDonald's. It's a different McDonald's. This one is over on Driggs and Morgan in Greenpoint. And I've got a backpack. I'll bring a backpack with me. I will order McGriddle and a hash brown and a cup of coffee. And I'll drink half of the cup of coffee in the bathroom, because there's a lady named... weirdly, her name is Dementia, and she will fill up the other half of the coffee for me. And she will also, I bring a backpack. I only have one thing in the backpack, and it's a fax machine. And because Dementia will let me plug in the fax machine behind the counter, which is super nice, and that's one of the great things about McDonald's. So then I'll eat the McGriddle, save the other half of the coffee. I'll go, because right across the parking lot is Staples. I'll go to Staples, I'll sit in their computer area for about 4 or 5 hours, and I will fax myself Dark of the Night flyers, and then they'll show up in McDonald's, and Dementia is nice enough to wrap fish fillet sandwiches in those Dark of the Night flyers, and that's how a lot of people get to know the show.
That's a constructive way to use a McDonald's trip. I will say that.
I mean, it's the only way that I can justify not getting a job. So if there's a better way, I'd like to hear from you, the listening audience, and maybe I could get out of this spiral. And I guess.
Well, let's go back to camera one, and I think also Brian, camera one. Look, the topic tonight is how to become a Dracula, and what Eric and I are discussing are our very earthly, mortal problems.
Not problems that Brian, the Dracula called in earlier, has to deal with.
Yeah, and Brian, our tech.
Or Brian, our tech. I'm sure he has a different set of problems.
Yeah, I got a lot of problems.
What he's saying is that he has a lot of problems.
Which is part of the reason why
what
we invited him to do the show.
Yeah, what are some of your problems, Brian?
Like pretty existential, like normal, like existential
Right.
dread, you know?
Right.
Like kind of.
Right. And Brian, this is not I am not shutting you down here, but I guess I am in a way, because the one thing that we want to keep out of the Dark of the Night studio is existentialism as a philosophy
And pornography.
Yeah. So we have a call coming in. Hi, you're live with Dark of the Night.
Oh, hey. I wasn't sure if this is real, so I just tried this.
Well, it is and it isn't.
Yeah. What brought you? Well, I guess we just found out you wanted to know if it's real. So.
Well, and here's our angle on your call. We're not sure if you're real.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how can you prove that you're who?
I think the audio for my call went to the host, so they're responding to that.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the. Your audio went to the post.
The audio of my call is going to your hosts live.
Well, we are the hosts. Who do you think you're talking to? Hello?
So this is weird because there's like a 30-second delay. So I'm talking to the screener, but it's going to Eric and his co-host. Are you watching the show?
We do watch the show sometimes. Well, look, let's see if we can work through this, because this is good. I know it feels like we're confused right now. Eric is a little confused. I'm a little confused. I can tell you're confused. But overall, we're both very
Should I call
happy.
back later, or?
I think
No. We're both very happy with how this is going, and we'd like to proceed, if possible.
yeah. Let's work this out. Let's start it back at the beginning. What's your name?
David.
Cool. David, first of all, welcome to Dark of the Night. Welcome to our phone line.
Oh, is this Eric?
That was Alex. This is Eric.
Okay, yeah. There is a really substantial delay. So
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. No, sorry. This is totally my fault. I'm watching and listening at the same time.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's
on the
just
phone.
just
So
yeah.
I should stop watching.
Correct.
Just
Yep.
focus on you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'm
didn't know
really
what
sorry.
was happening. I thought.
I see.
Okay, hold on.
I see what your confusion was there, David, and you've exposed an amazing technical flaw with the show, which is that what
Okay,
the
so-
audience sees is about 12 seconds behind.
Got it.
It's-
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, because this
Okay,
is.
so I turned off the audio from the show.
Not everybody
And
can.
I'm just listening to you now.
Not everybody can be like an audiovisual expert who's calling in. We can't have that high standard.
I got you. It's all good.
Yeah, like when I read a post on the New York Times, right, which I don't like to do because it's liberal claptrap.
Right.
I know that those posts, what I'm seeing was posted at least 30 seconds before I read it. So what I always wonder, as an audiovisual expert, what I'm thinking to myself is, what has happened in that 30 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, if I watch, which I don't watch pornography, but if I did, I can imagine the thought would go through my mind, like, is this happening now, or are these the screeners that I'm looking at, and then there's something happening once I get on the other side of whatever these people are doing?
Wait, you get screeners for porn?
No, that was part of my confusion. I didn't know if when I click on, let's say I'm watching, whatever, guy.
Like a guy jerking off and two women starting to make out.
Yeah, then I'm
Right,
thinking to
right.
myself, like, are these people the sort of the screeners for whatever I'm actually gonna get to eventually?
Got it. Yeah, I mean, most like radio live shows have screeners, so I was just confused. It was my fault.
No, your confusion has birthed a new idea.
A new genre.
A new genre. A new idea on the show, which is that we, well, first of all, we revel in confusion because that's where, the very first time somebody saw a ghost, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know, and the ghost was yelling, screaming, "Boo!" so fucking loud.
Right.
They didn't even know what boo was. They didn't know, there
Yeah.
was no Halloween.
And if he was like from a distance, maybe they didn't see him so well, so
Yeah, like,
it was not really a word. I mean, in English.
yeah, I mean, they didn't know if someone had. I'm gonna go on a limb and assume that there were donuts back then when somebody saw a ghost for the first time. They didn't know if someone had sort of scraped the top off of a vanilla donut and smeared it on their eyes.
David,
And they were seeing that instead of a ghost. They didn't know what a ghost was.
David, I don't usually do this, but I wear this crystal around my neck, and every once in a while, I'll feel it heat up a little bit or start to tingle when I'm talking to someone.
Yeah, it's a ghost. Ghost.
Okay, well, I was gonna kind of go in a different direction, but sure, maybe it's a ghost. My question is, it's getting hot a little bit right now, and I'm thinking maybe
Okay.
it's because you might have had some recent paranormal experience. If so, is that true?
I did, actually.
Okay? Can we hear about it?
Yeah. So I'm really into reading spoilers for movies on Wikipedia,
Sure.
and there's a movie that just came out with Casey Affleck called A Ghost Story.
Is that true?
Yeah, I actually,
Indie film.
I've heard about this film. It's upsetting to me. Go on.
Why?
Because I just don't think you should be making movies about ghosts and then like sort of taking ghosts are a huge problem in a lot of places in the country. There are houses filled with them, and they will throw you'll make a bowl of cereal, and you'll say, okay, now I need a spoon, and you'll go over to the drawer, and guess what? The cereal gets fucking thrown against the wall because your house has something in it that died years ago, and
Right.
and that's that's funny, I guess. If you hear about it, because that doesn't sound like a real problem. I swear to God, if that happened to you, you'd be
Places in the
super
country.
pissed or scared.
I would have to leave immediately.
Well, so okay, so Casey Affleck, so you were saying
The good Affleck.
That's the good Affleck.
Oh well, maybe not.
so
I don't know. The movie seemed really cool. I kind of still want to see it.
Oh, so that's your paranormal experience?
I mean, sorry, is that story not good enough? Or?
No, it was very.
I don't mean to. I don't mean to. That I know that sounded a little like I'm disappointed or something. That's not true. Look, any of our night crawlers, any of our fans who call in, and you've got any story whatsoever, even if it's about you picked a rapper like a rapper for a Starburst out of the trash. If that's your story, then that's part of who you are, and I want to hear it.
Okay.
But I will say, David, I did think that story you just told was better than a story about somebody taking something out of the trash, and that being the whole story.
Okay. Well, thank you. I had a guest in my house who once thought that she heard a ghost. I think she believed it.
Is this a guess that you were attracted to, or?
Yeah.
Well, this is story. This
We're gonna take another call, but David, we are so
Okay.
thankful that you called in.
yeah. Thanks, David,
all
for
good.
calling in. Dark of the
I'll
night.
go back.
We're still working out a series of complex hand signals with our. We're calling someone.
Are we calling them back? Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. This is the kind of shit.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dark of the Night.
It is.
And we're calling you because we have a feeling you called us.
Yeah.
Well, we're very excited to be talking to you.
Who are we talking to?
Gibbon.
Who? Gibbon?
Gibbon.
Given.
Yes.
Given. Okay. Cool name, I guess. Are you from California or?
No. Absolutely no. California, never been there.
Well, this is going
Because, that's it's really, irrelevant.
I guess this is what you get if you're a show and you call somebody just out of the blue.
Look, I think let's not jump the gun here. I'm very interested, given. I'm interested. Sorry, Given. We were getting some very complicated hand signals from our tech right now, and it's extremely confusing. But I'm interested in what you're saying, Given, about.
Hello.
Yes. Hello?
Sorry, I got confused for a second. Alex, please.
Yeah, I was in the middle. Just to be clear, Eric, who was sitting next to me for the entire time that I was attempting to ask a question, just entered back into the conversation by asking hello, as if I had been talking to no one. Given, I'm interested in your views on California. Do you not approve of them because they're a little too, how do I say, into the Mary Jane?
Yeah, weed friendly.
No, I believe that California, if it's going to fall, if the shit is going to happen, it's going to first come to California, and that will be where it all happens, and I would never want to be that place when it's happening.
That's absolutely true. And this is something that Eric and I'm glad you brought this up, Given, because this is something that we try to communicate to all the night crawlers. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in California.
Well, let me tell you what will certainly happen in California, and that's the big one. Some of my family members tell me, you should move out to California. Life is easier there. It's not as difficult as it is in New York. And I say, yeah, well, and then the earth splits apart and it starts swallowing cars on the freeway. So I think that's something I'm not interested in.
You know, when you say that, I feel like my crystal is glowing so intensely that it rings a truth that really doesn't even parallel falsehood.
Wait, so you have a crystal also?
Oh, yeah.
And do you wear it around your neck or some other place?
Other place.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into that, really, because I think you know.
Look, Given, you have you.
Sorry, can I press pause? Just Greg, are you on the line?
Greg, no.
Because we're being told that there should be two callers on the same lot, like that we have merged two calls.
This seems. I'm going to go ahead and say this seems like a good time for me to just go to the bathroom because.
Hello, Greg.
Yes.
Okay, what is your name? It's Given.
Oh, it's me, Greg. I'm back on the air.
Wait. Is Given here too?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's me, Greg, too. We're both on the air.
Okay, wait. So Given is on the line and Greg is on the line.
Yeah. I want to talk about my problem with my Dracula at home.
Okay, wait. So just to make it straight to everybody who's watching at home, we've got two callers. They're both on the line. They're both great. Given has been talking to us about his experiences in California. Greg is now on the line, and Greg wants to talk about his experience with his own Dracula. Do I have that straight? Is everybody clear on what's happening?
Yeah.
Greg,
Are we talking about cereal, or are we talking about location? I just want to talk about how I was having.
Let's lay some ground rules here. Greg, why don't you tell us your story about Dracula, and then Given, if you wouldn't mind hanging on the line for a minute, and you can weigh in on what Greg has to say. How's that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I've been my girlfriend for like a few years. I probably shouldn't be upset, but I don't know. Like, months ago, we had been a couple of we lived together, and you know, she won't be, and I'm just Dracula. This was like she should and you're getting into what I should do.
I'm gonna get up for a moment, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm just gonna walk away for a second.
Okay.
Greg, I hate to tell you this. We didn't hear a single word that you said because you just completely broke up, and so it was just basically a series of intermittent vowels. So
Eric, let me, Eric, please let me just intervene here, because I heard everything Greg said, and my crystal was glowing very brightly during his eloquent comments, which involved his inability to understand this entire conversation, and I really feel like the guy with the cowboy hat knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
I can just feel it. I feel that connection.
Okay, well,
and I just,
if that's
I just
true,
would like him to just say it again, because I also heard on one level a series of vowels, but on another level a deep meaning there.
Well,
I feel like the guy in the cowboy hat knows, and he should tell us.
by the way, the guy in the cowboy hat, his name is Alex. But nevertheless, let's hear what you think Greg was saying.
Well, he was telling us that his, on a spiritual level, the disconnect between his ability to be able to communicate and everything else is so broad. And it's really...
What? Greg, you're...
Can you hear me more clearly now?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. We're hearing Given tell us his take on what you were saying.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, so Given, so tell us again.
I heard somebody really having trouble telling us what he really felt on some level when we're so far apart, and if we could just break through that and just say it like it is, like the way Greg did, with vowels and broken like that, but still have such deep meaning, like on a molecular level,
Okay, well.
I think, and that really is what makes my crystal glow.
Well, okay. Greg, why don't you... We can hear you now. Can you hear us now?
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe, don't you guys still hear me as I'm speaking right now?
I can hear
Is it
you.
clear?
I can hear Given. Can you hear him?
It sounds like a series of vowels just pounding in my brain.
Okay,
But yes.
I can hear you, Greg, fine. So why don't you start over, Greg,
Okay.
then tell us your experience.
Well, it all started, a long time ago. I got together with my girlfriend, and, we had a great relationship. And I shouldn't say her name on the air because, that wouldn't be polite to her.
Sure.
But, we lived together for a while, and about, we've been having some problems for months and months, and about, 4 months ago, we started seeing a couples therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have ever had anything like that.
Alex and I have seen a couple therapists one time when the show wasn't going well. But, so yes.
Oh, God. Well, it is rough. But, I just felt like the therapist took her side, and my girlfriend just, she said that, she felt like she split apart and she wants to become a Dracula, and I was just like, I didn't sign up for this relationship to date a Dracula, but my therapist was saying that I was being the selfish one and that she should, follow her bliss, and her bliss was being a Dracula, and I was like, all right, fine, I love you. You should follow your bliss. If your bliss is being a Dracula, you should be a Dracula, and I hate it. I hate it so much. She's just out all night partying. She can't be out during the day. She sucks people's blood, and we can't go to brunch ever, and I love brunch. And it's just awful. I don't know what to do.
Let me ask you this, Greg. Is she wearing cravats? Is she staying, inside of a coffin at night? What are some...
Oh, yeah. The coffin came before she became a Dracula. She was, so excited. She was, looking at Amazon and, IKEA and Etsy and, sending me links of, what coffin she should buy. I was like, I don't know.
Are we talking Nosferatu or Gary Oldman in the Keanu Reeves Dracula from the 90s?
I don't know. I feel like more of the 90s sexy version, or maybe it's the Gary Oldman one that I'm thinking of, but even more up to date, more of the cliche pleather kind of sexy vampire Dracula. Forgive me, Dracula.
Mm-hmm. Well, Given, did you get all that?
The references to the cultural side of things is really not where my mind is, so it's difficult, but I feel like, something authentic right there. I think something deeply authentic.
Greg, I don't know what to tell you. I don't date much. I try to get women to go out with me, but I really am not that experienced with long-term relationships, so I don't really have
paranormal dating in general.
I don't know. Alex, do you have, you're a seasoned pro at this point with regard to relationships after being married.
I like to put a little caution warning label when I talk about any recommendations I have, because they're all extraordinarily negative. I mean, basically, here's where I'm at with my love life. I have 2 sons, and
oh my God,
and you have to understand that the rumors about women being attracted to men who have proven themselves the responsibility, the ability to be a father, only applies to boys who seem to be turning out well. And my 2 twin boys are clearly not turning out well. And so it has very much the opposite effect. I have an ex-wife. She is absolutely won at every step of the divorce.
I'm sorry, Alex. I don't think I've ever heard you talk on air about your sons before. I was unaware that you had children.
I do mention them from time to time. I try not.
Oh, okay. Then that's probably one I've been watching.
Well, listen. I don't want to commandeer things too much, but listen, because I know we have both Greg and Given on the line, and as I understand it, Given has some concerns about Draculas as well, but I feel like we should maybe try to put a cap on this Greg, try to find some closure for you, Greg. Greg, have you considered joining the Army? Because my understanding of joining the Army is that if it's the same as being a Jedi, then you're not allowed to love. And I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, and that sort of, I mean, if I just jump in, I'll just say that, like, romantic relationships in this where we're going is very difficult, because if you're talking about, kind of the undead, and that really goes beyond, I think, what is capable for us to be able to be willing to, like, counseling or anything. Like, I mean, really, no one's gone there before until now, until you guys. I mean, I think this is really the beginning of something,
Well, we're not experts on relationships for sure. In fact, I feel like we've sort of forsaken any sort of normal, healthy, natural relationships in exchange for a quest for truth. And so, Greg, if you're looking to love and you feel like your significant other isn't capable of giving you the things that you need because she's more interested in becoming a Dracula, I mean, it's bad. It's difficult enough dating a vampire. Period. It's like dating a rock star. Like. They're just unavailable, and so like a vampire. But if she's actually going to be a Dracula,
yeah, that's the best kind of vampire.
No, she's going the full Drac.
So that is extremely challenging, and I just encourage you to just find a woman that loves you for who you are, and she's not.
Oh my God.
Interested in sucking the D, and what I mean by that is sucking the drink. She's not drinking your blood.
Yeah. No, my parents told me the same thing. Was join the Army because you're not allowed to love there, and that, or just find someone for you, either or.
And I would also consider chemical castration, because if you get that done, I visit the sperm. Well, I don't like to call it the sperm bank. It's a family planning center of sorts, and I make deposits. And they talk to me about, like, you've done enough. Why don't you just kind of get some of this chemical castration stuff that's kind of popular right now?
Yep.
So that's something to look into.
I think.
Yeah, that's just a fad. I mean, that's a fad. It's going to be totally debunked going forward. I mean, the chemical side of things, you just can't even. I can't even believe you're saying this, because I've been watching for a little while now, and like, it just doesn't seem like that chemical. I mean, what you're talking about is just so faddish, and I don't understand why we can't just say what it is, right? Like, it's the inability to be able to have that kind of relationship on the paranormal level. Like, whether it's undead or beyond living or whatever you want to call it, like, is there a physical solution to that? Can there be?
I think that's a great question. I saw once a female Sasquatch, and I was not interested in her immediately. I immediately knew it was actually the first thing I thought is I hope I can, one, that's a female Sasquatch, and two, the fact that it's female makes me know that I don't want to have sex with it. And she was doing some paperwork or something, and she turned up and she looked at me, and I knew that she had the opposite idea.
Yeah, and that's a spiritual and a physical reality. Alex was repulsed on both a spiritual and a physical level. I try and physically and spiritually connect with women. It doesn't work. So I try and do my best now to build spiritual and physical walls in between me and most females that don't show up on my Tinder profile or Happen or Bumble or any of the other dating apps that are on my phone. And so if I'm not meeting the right kind of women, yeah, you know what? I am going to pursue a chemical solution. If this doesn't work out in a year or two, I am going to chemically have my genitalia, augmented in a way that diminishes my desire for a type of relationship that isn't possible, so that I can focus on my research, I can focus on broadcasting, and if I can focus on the legacy I'm leaving behind with Dark of the Night.
Right. I'm a little bit torn between, chemical castration and actually, I don't know if you guys will be upset, but just, becoming a Dracula myself.
I wouldn't say that that's upsetting. It's more, listen, I don't like to give life advice to our audience because
I look up to you guys. Really, anything at all would mean the world to me.
Well, look, this does not apply to every person watching the show. This is just for Greg. Greg, you won't be able to do it. And again, this isn't a general warning. Don't try to become a Dracula. Look, maybe some people out there can become a Dracula. So here, I just want to say clearly, Greg, the guy who I'm talking to on the phone, you can't do it. I can tell.
It's because I'm inadequate.
Well, that
is true.
That does seem to be coming across. I'd say that, listen, it's a pie graph of reasons. That's a big slice of it. Some other things include, I imagine you don't work out.
Because none of our listeners do.
But
except that one guy. And we both know who we're talking about.
But look, Greg, I don't want you to be discouraged, but accept to be discouraged from trying to become a Dracula.
Okay.
Guys, I think...
But you guys think I should just let her go then?
Yeah, and let yourself go. Because this will probably...
Yeah, I was also thinking of putting on 200 pounds or so.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to go to a higher weight class, if you know what I mean.
That's the only way to rule out.
Chicks dig that. I mean, that's what chicks. I know that because of my, big boy, however you're going to call it medically, whatever. But chicks dig that because they see size and they know what it is, and that's just going to go forward on any kind of way you want to.
Yeah, I don't think
chicks really dig that.
I don't think that that's and to those who are wondering, I don't think that that's an anti-feminist thing to say, because listen, it does matter if you've got the big one.
If you could put 200 pounds into your, into your,
We're not allowed to say.
And Brian is shaking his head no, that's not somewhat we
don't make the rules.
We're not going to go there. But if you could put 200 pounds into that, I mean, let's put it this way. I talked about I go into McDonald's every day. I bring this backpack with a fax machine. Now imagine if I wasn't carrying a backpack with a fax machine. Imagine if I was carrying a duffel bag and they just loaded salami into that thing, and I was carrying a duffel bag full of it. When I walked into Staples, you better believe I'd get some enticing looks from some enchanting young ladies.
Yeah, the bigger your
what
is, the higher you fly, if you understand what I'm saying. And that's maybe the only rule of dating.
It's the load you carry, dude. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
And
yes,
girls, chicks like that. You go to Krispy Kreme, you're there at the red light's going off, and it's like 4 a.m, and like there's nobody else there but you with your box of Krispy Kremes, and like chicks dig the heavy load. They always have. They always will. And it's also what you present to them, because it doesn't matter what they find out. Well, whatever. I understand you got FCC shit you got to deal with, whatever, bleep me out, but, like, it is what it is.
I would like to invite any of our female listeners to call in and tell us, firsthand what you think about the heavy load that we speak of. But I doubt there are any.
Well, there's Jeannie. Jeannie's a nice...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, she did change her name.
Yeah.
She changed her name. And she should have, because genies are not good. Although they're ripped, and they definitely have got...
Guys, we're so thankful that you called in. This has been a fascinating discussion. Let's bid them adieu, if you please. Guys, thank you for calling in to Dark of the Night.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad we cut him off in the middle of his goodbye, because I very much wanted to say hello to you, Eric.
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of reinitiate. That was cool. That was sort of
it was a mishmash.
It was a mishmash. It was a Dark of the Night 4-way.
Yeah. Which we've had before in person back when we used to not have callers, we just had a live studio audience.
And sometimes when we first started, now maybe as we're getting towards the end of our episode, it's sort of fun to do sort of a Dark of the Night history lesson. Earlier in the show, I was sort of explaining how we're kind of like a non-murdering Manson family.
Sure.
And although we would kill many supernatural beings, and have, or paranormal, and if you're behind, if you're in the government and if you're doing any of the stuff that I don't like, you bet I'm going to march right down to Washington, and I'm just going to turn into a nuke. Suddenly, I'm just going to be so angry, I'm just going to transform into one. But look, when we first started Dark of the Night,
back in the late 90s.
So it was, there was a melange of wonderful culture. Fred Durst was telling people to suck it.
Yeah. There was Korn. There was the B-52s were kind of on the way out.
Yeah, the MTV Movie Awards were just slamming.
Method Man and Redman were doing crazy stuff on TRL.
Yeah, it was just like, it was like, and Busta Rhymes was screaming to give me some more.
Yeah, Mace was just starting to get started with Puffy, and the
almost
Boy
done.
label.
And at the same time, he was almost done.
Yeah.
Because that basically ended after one album. Now that being said,
And we were not a part of any of that.
no, we just were sort of we were like, look, they were Elvis and we were the Beatles getting started in Hamburg, and so what Darker Than Night started as was not a broadcast, was not just a live studio audience. It was us showing up at our friend's house and just performing.
Yeah.
And we
And
were
by performing, he means we would set up 2 computers and we would have a BBS, like a bulletin board system, over a live area, a local area network, and we would message each other from across the room
Yeah, and
about paranormal stuff.
and no one was allowed to read what we were saying, and it was very good what was going on.
That
back
was some,
then.
to be honest, sometimes I wish I could go back there because I feel like that was some of our best work.
And everyone, our friends who were usually just watching TV or ignoring us, afterwards they'd turn to us and they'd say that was amazing.
Yeah, and then they would call the police, and which is sort of a mixed message, but it got us excited that something was happening.
We did that for probably a year
and
before we moved to phase 2.
phase 2 was we went and we got a garage, and it belonged to an old man who lived down the street from the school I was teaching at.
And that guy, coincidentally, we won't say anything else about it, but it was Steve Jobs.
And when he died, we were like...
And now that's fast forward. We're fast forwarding now. We're fast forwarding.
When he died, I was like, I think I left some stuff in that garage, and I didn't get it back.
Because he left in his will a line that said, "Don't let those 2 guys into my garage." That's exactly what it said.
Yeah. But we did the show there for about a year and a half, and we really didn't make a whole lot of progress because we were just broadcasting to ourselves.
And Steve Jobs.
And Steve Jobs. And he would come down and he would be like, "Get out of my garage." And we'd be like, oh, yeah. And we'd pretend like we didn't know where we were.
Yeah, we would pretend we had Alzheimer's. And
Strange for 2 guys in their 20s.
he wasn't buying it. And I don't know if you have to be as smart as Steve Jobs to tell that we're too young to have Alzheimer's, or if anyone wouldn't have fallen for it. But either way, it was like, well done, sir. I guess you do deserve to be the king of Apple.
All right. And from there, that's when we got connected to the Radcast network, which was a budding internet radio station.
Bill and Gene Thompson from over at Radcast.
Bill and Gene Thompson. And they were a married couple. They were, I hate to say this publicly, but they're pretty open about it. They were swingers. And they said, we're getting this internet radio thing going. And they were like, do you want in?
And we weren't sure what they were asking us what we wanted in on.
Yeah.
We were pretty sure they meant both.
Yeah.
And we said no to one. Here's what we said. No to one of them.
We didn't specify.
And they did choose radio. They chose to give us the radio show, and that
probably because I was heavier then, even than I am now.
But it also, that being said, even though we were disappointed at first that that's the one that they had thought we meant, we were excited to have the opportunity to continue with the show. And here we are, battling still technical difficulties, still trying to find new ways to battle the paranormal.
Swimming upstream, taking multiple calls and merging them together.
Taking multiple cars here because we're afraid we're being followed by Deep Throat, even though he's definitely dead. And it would make no sense if he was alive, if he was following us.
I took 4 taxis just to find the subway to get here, to get into another car to come to this place tonight.
I rented a car, then hired a taxi driver to let me drive his taxi. And
I got in an Uber which incidentally was a taxi, and then I watched on the screen, because they have these screens on the back of the seats, an episode of Taxi where there was an Uber driver driving a guy in a taxi, and it was me. And that's how. And then episode ended with Andy Kaufman coming in and doing Latka to me right as I got out and came up here.
I wrote the 3 first Ninja Turtles films, and they got better with each one.
So, folks, I think that we've proven. Well, we haven't proven anything, but we've discussed, and you've helped.
We formed a theory.
We formed a series of interlocking theorems about what it takes to become a Dracula, and I think we're all a little wiser now.
And also, weirdly, a little angry. And not just a little, very angry.
Because when you struggle like we do to have a show, and there's technical difficulties in Gremlins and Poltergeists,
Yeah,
you can't help but be mad.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to watch that Twilight Zone episode once a day for a few years, where William Shatner was looking out the window and there was some kind of thing on the plane.
Right. Classic.
So the way he's reacting is with panic and terror, right? If I was him, I would be furious immediately.
The way we operate and the way we roll, FYI, if we're Shatner, we're busting through that window, going out on the wing and wringing that space monkey's neck.
Yeah. Let's A/B our reactions
to Shatner's.
To Shatner's. Here's Shatner's, right? All right. So this is my eye line, right? This is the. I mean, I know it doesn't make any sense, but I want you to be able to see my face. There's something out on the wing. There's something. Right?
Yeah. And here's our reaction.
Motherfucker.
You son of a bitch. I'm gonna kill you. Yeah! Boosh! And he blows my brains out.
We've discussed this before. When we would watch footage of World War I, and they first had the machine gun and had like the little dipod, the little legs that it's on. We both agreed that if I have a gun that's big enough that I can't hold it, I get to use Eric's head and neck to support.
I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to go out that way.
Yeah, because the gun does get so hot that
it melts condoms.
So, that being said, I think this was a successful, despite all of the spiritual battling we needed to do to get this show up tonight. I've had one of the coolest nights of my life.
This has been the time of my life.
I am going to have to take 7 cars and then rent a car to get home, but that's more than worth it. I'm excited to do that.
I'm going to have to take 3 Uber pools to an airport shuttle to a bike that I can ride on the on-ramp of the freeway. Just even begin to think about how I'm getting home. But it is worth it.
Yeah. Eric and I are going to go in we're going to form an oval of traveling away from each other and then meet 3 hours from here and then figure out how we're going to get home.
In a crop circle formation.
We're going to be riding in a sort of the way kids would sort of ride their bikes in a circle and kind of yell at each other like, hey, you want to go play basketball or something? It's like, yeah, maybe later. Well, we're going to be being like, how am I going to get home?
Yeah, we're going to do that with cars that don't belong to us. So, folks, in closing, we just want to say,
listeners.
We'll see you next week,
Yeah,
folks.
see you next week.